แต่กลุ่มสุยที่ท่อเต่าสาบไม่อารินานิ่งบ่ไม่อารินาสุนีบ่ไม่ปวดเลยเต่า education ดำ true ครินะแต่กลุ่มสุนัตั้งนูปนิโบสามีไม่ให้กักขันกังกะเกยนายอาการ urban ก็ใครจะมีกันครินะ school ดูนายเถอะโอซากินกักกันมีนายเถอะ tutors นุ่ง mentors นุ่งเป็นนายเถอะแต่กิน lack of motivation lack of direction นี่ให้ก็มีตรง difference เลย urban เลย rural เลยไม่ตรงกันไปนะ
40 students ลงก็ได้ only 2-3 of them are serious in the studies. The rest are either actively involved in student union ko mai ni. They just want to be involved somewhere. Just to waste time and pass time and then to gain this kind of political affiliate or something like that. Ni ko mitong ko. Kani ko any interest na education is the example. The teachers tong attitude. Ni tong education system ko ni jaw mo magan ko. Teachers tong attitude it plays a great role. Role ta hakan nai tong the. You have said nangla tani sagante so a good looking teachers let's say motivate the students to attend class regularly ni
tao maru oi na tao drop out suba min ho he katung main agenda he to buicho ni samsam mi gan ko akai tung schooling ko namita college ko namita university ko tao chamba mi tung kathiek he it's very dry to be very frank anong wari na student oi ko mi gan ko it was very dry dropout suba me from my own department anong psychology department ko to akai mental trauma ko mai ni traumatic akai episodes ko mai experience sugang mai kham kakai ke nung ke khun ko lela mai nungoi phungam manani tan min hoi ke pai na dia oi na breakdown sunani
so kaniyo tong hoi ni it depends on the student at the same time little help from the teachers kaniyo concerned teachers khatare ni ko motivation factors ni nai the Kamei ke ani tong individual tong factor kari naim jakra ni if it is something that is not interesting for them kani ko employability realm ko mai ni ko megan khata kani wa lack of interest na na hote drop out tong ni patong the ko man ta ani tong khasa po khau ta wa ani tong feel khasa po khau linguistics ani ho wa ta forensic linguistics na ani ta hai biology ni ron ta wa ani ta wa kom sani so security pang ra pa ni season tong be
Hello, mi goi minata say chung television zalo no ba mi goi that ray mi khau thon riwe kum na say ni kai tong gai kan nai panelist kan nai kai doctor assistant professor kan nai kum na kang tang na ba me kai tong guest na mi goi na dau cham na ti ko kai tong gang ni me ni kum na padi gang me khau ep ni na lung gai kum na ray mi khau kai doctor rina kai viewers ni goi kum na intro te sulo ko.
Hello, I am Dr. Guigongpou Gonmei. I aram tamang long mi I am the assistant professor Department of Linguistics how I tana bam tong
Hello everyone, I'm Guigongpou Gonmei Kamei, born and brought up in Pojingtong, Nambol, and currently I'm in Ragailong, Imphal. Currently I am assistant professor in the Department of Psychology, Manipur University.
Te kum na kai Dr.Gangmumei Kamei Dr. kanai khoi na gen kum na intro hai lo ko thini kum na asai tong topic he ni padi kai mai topic e na kum na khan ne me goi bina loi ma mai phau ni kai tong program sai loi mai phau kum na za lo khan na ne sang hoi pi tong the educating the youth na sam pi tong lam ko ne kai linguistic department na khan ne kai psychology department khoi na to be mod nai bo sam pi ni oza kanai khoi na kum na sai he ko ma thai lo bani rai me khong sun ni oza kanai ta kai atau to dai thau gan thani technology gan thani kom na oza khat su na ne oza kan hai tung ding ko hai allow them te chabon nun te educate ni rik cham me gan to be su me gan ko ni to be challenges face su ko sa me ni ka viewers ni wai kom na share lo ko oza na ni ka gan de la right
okay challenges education system overall za we te to be kom sa ko chu ani tong holistic approach I real might some we tend to rena prescriptive to la dictate so my tong kom kha gai mai na ni involve so so then andra you do this it is so it is kom reo it kom out to make kom ni kom tha gai the kom ma ta wa ta tong education system scenario ha za wa ta the technology ni involve so the so technology kai misuse so many na gai the kom ta na ta ni tong kha to be kom sa ko so wong tang lak mai tong so kha there's a big gap ni gap nai mi tong between the teachers and the student ni and the technology and the learning so hai tong kho nai tong the ka ma aram me ta ajang na ba ni tong scenario lang for example either in the hills ni ching ka ba ni infal ka ba ni ta ni non panga kanyo lack of concentration lack of focus lack of kanyo tong directions kanyo hai nai na ba me ko magan kho tobi ko mo za na hai tre guiding ni ko ma mentorship ti kho so to ite to anio tobi kom so one to one individual level kho anio hai interaction ni to na the ko ma na kanyo to engage ong khang ni ko ma we have to identify the interest kanyo to interest identify some am khang ni hai ko ma na kanyo tong tobi so ka ge nai mai to lo kho sa bo kho kanyo tong learning platform hang ta kahani opportunities kahani avenues kani hong ta la ni tong ni and we don't usually do that in this education system we tend to do this bukum saso bookish kind of education we tend to prescribe more than describe so that is what I have ni hai te to aram kho kum ta tong present scenario kho nai ba mi the ta
no zar na ke adapt suni mai nai
akai tong tau zum contemporary education system le kahunong khozam past tong education system la kani gangdani mi tong education system hai azam wakhal ko sunni as a psychologist it's quite different akai tong kahunong ko jam education system hai tau phawking kom theory oriented oi kai to kom na practice there is a huge gap between theory and practice akai samsa ko school ko thai mangai akai noi na like you take any subject let's take mathematics sab me subject ko la mi gan ko hai aka class 10 ko trigonometry no chammin ani dekina where is the application real life ko nang to ko apply su bo ni hai no tung applied application base hai akai mai he ka gan chana thousand chabon ngori na I let it chamba mi hai tabui khang chambam tem so ni may identify sukang you need to identify why education school chamba mi nanu I can tabui jang rena I let it chambam tem cho I let it chamba mi hai atong personal growth ka ngai chambam tu ni na mishat rena I hai job oriented ni I class 12 lower kina na mita I graduation lower kina na mita I masters lower kina I may xyz tan ka mai kang I hona mi kha ni na mishat rena tao sabang kum na tao zum juk ko tao kam tao zum juk ko tao entrepreneurship ko ngai tao AI zum juk ko tao hai instead of looking for job outside you create the job for the others so you are the one who is creating the job right not you hunting for the job hai kum na tao education system hai kum na tao sabang kum na theory ko trina tao practice kho tat khang pai na ka ge na e sa mi ai saloni kum lakina akai tung kabui rong me community ko specifically jawgang hi to education ja mangal ni ko tung direction hai pai na guard bo tana ka khan ne kum na I personally feel that there needs to be a clear guidance and counseling for the young students koi aka tau mai yut nongwai ni hai ta kum sui ti tho tau sab mai arina ning ba mai arina suni ba mai po le tau education dam through rina ta kum suna tangnu ni bo sa mi mai ka khan kan ka ge nai haidaru ko trina kai manipur jam context ko jawgang ti tho infrastructure jam lack of infrastructure paina nai support system paina ga le even teachers paus ne paina ga le if you look at akai tung community kunas jaw mi gan go hai rural le urban le kanai ni tung difference kin paina nai na ni if you look akai tung chingna to takne sa ti to school nai bang kon ni to school ko infrastructure mak infrastructure nai bang kon te kan teachers educators oja bam ma appointment du sura kina oja tu mak ma satra tu gang na kina oja mak te tung to kanwari na ning ma chamni ba mi da chamtam ma akai urban ko kai da mi gan krina school du nai the oza king ka gai mi nai the tutors no mentors no pen nai the tekina lack of motivation lack of direction ni hai ko mitung difference urban le rural le mai tung kim paina difference re nai na ni so we need to akai oza Guigongpou kara saga kom na we need to understand from a very holistic perspective not from one perspective but from a holistic perspective education ken sukang at the same time akai tung educated oe sar kina akai tung culture akai tung identity akai tung religion tiki monung we need to always keep in mind the fact that we have our own culture. We don't need to necessarily adapt or adopt to the Western education, but at the same time we need to inculcate and understand and imbibe our traditions, our belief systems, and also uplift our culture. Ni may he main important point ne sa me haurai mi ko ai saram.
Okay. Kuna oza kanai na game broadly kumna explains lo kathane kumna tao Dr. Digong kang ni da merin ani tao gan hai allow don again classroom ko ba me gan ko hai lecture 25 ni minute ni kumna dong na bam ke boring chu gang te ni kina lari ka do paji me negligence ni kumna hau pa na ku me gan ko hai oza kanai to experience ke padik nai gang tong thoni classroom ko hai to be promote su gi sai to kai student en goi rin ni tarik na ko hen na zao he kari gang pani bo sa me ni ko to creativity ni kumna to be su gi sai to gai pani bo sa me te ni kumna shares la bo
First of all, the first principle which I adopt in the class is I really love my students. Without love, not that kind of a romantic love, but the love for knowledge and engagement with my students. So, oza khat oina akai satra tung wakal ni. Samsa kang ko I teach PhD students, I teach master's students, I teach undergraduate students. Undergraduate students khat tak me jam style le. MA masters ko tak ne me style le. PhD ko tak me style le khena ina ni. First you need to be like the student. As a teacher, you need to first be like a student. Kanoi tabui kakhan mamo tawe. Tabui kakhan bamnu bo. Ni arina mai lakang asapa megang ko kanoi ko tabui ignite shubo ni. So I have to think like them first, and then only I'll be able to engage with them. But sometimes that might also not work. I prepares wholeheartedly jang prepare subong konsinito. When you transact in the class, things might not come out the way you think, right? So I use lots of humors, jokes. Sometimes I try to bring as many lively examples as possible. I also teach about psychoanalysis, dreams, and fantasies. I could make an ko akai na no ite kanoi jimang tabui dream subo ni na me tabui fantasize subo na misatri na akai newspaper ko akai tung nuini mai samsa kampong na fam ko kai cartoon picture nai ding ni hai kum ko tau dialogue suba me ngo he phunggup mai na mitri na kai jam culture ko tui tau tui thogom bo na mitri li kre na kai ngo tui subam bo ni hai no he lively example no he bring kum sur in a class ko engage suka. And usually I do not teach from the text, rather I try to use certain examples to connect with the text ni hai kum na humor khani jokes na me chatra ka cultural jang oi me example no mai paina lively oi na ni. So I think tau sa ka kum na for me na noi jam wakhal hai ni tau ka noi tau aren la kang sa pa kang tabui ka khan bo sa mi he mai he tinim dau kang tani example noi mai he tin ta mi na hen na nongai bo na ka khan ne. And sometimes I personally feel that teaching and learning does not stop in the four walls of the classroom. I personally feel that the real class starts the moment when you step out from the classroom. Classroom utu buisu sami gan ga anoi syllabus kuna focus su ina. So there is no much of a room to navigate much outside. But the moment when you step out of the classroom, when you are sitting in the corridor, when you are sitting in the cafe, that's where the real ideas kick in. Classroom ko kara oza ko thanam ma mai question no ta coffee shop ko namita trina pang ko corridor ko ni discussion shu ko ta palina. So this time I was suggesting to my dean that we should start introducing Leipung. Anthropology department MU ko to Leipung na concept na ni. Hami to formal setup ko discussion sumatong informal setup ko, and I still believe that the so-called this grapevine communication or informal communications plays a very important role in the education process. sami to informal communication shu kang ko akai kara boring oi mi nongoi to pra structured oi in a classroom with than ngam ma question nongoi to it plays out in the open space. So that's how I play around, you know, with my students in the class. Yeah. So that Guigongpou might have a different technique to do so.
Yeah, actually, I will just reinforce your opinion and what you have said. New classroom from my experience, when I usually enter the classroom, the first thing I usually do was wish them. That is obvious for all the teachers. But how I do is I first try to engage with them. I don't straight away start with the topic. Just straight away I start some okay. I can attention that I try to gain their attention. So to do that, I interest. So I ask about your daily activities. How was your day? What was your morning, for example? And I try to get their attention first. And so adding to Dr.Gangmumei's point, assignment, for example. See, education system theory, we usually use this theory mostly. Theory, if we keep lecturing all the time without paying attention to what they are learning, or let's say without the practical aspects of the learning, then it's very short-sighted and it won't be fruitful. So I have done one thing in classroom. I usually don't lecture. I tell stories. So I give like practical stories about what other peoples or other scholars or other students they have achieved. And I teach linguistics, which is practically a language study. So so from, let's say, sound to be words, sentence, meaning, how we usually say practically. So I talk about this even the bazaar. So what did you encounter when you come in the morning? Did you encounter this kind of thing, that kind of thing, for example? So I try to involve them in the learning process. So that's how they catch up. So they paid interest. And not only that, classroom if you keep feeding them, like we call something called like the spoon feeding to the spoon feeding, they will not learn, because the moment they walk out of the classroom, they'll forget everything. So the only thing is that we tend to, what I do is I tend to give them small assignments. Say, for example, I say, so let's say you find out this small topic, examples you listen to those people, how they communicate, how they speak. Active involvement is ulama. So that way, in the next class, next day, opinion feedback participate is ulama. So I just give lecture theory from my notes, from my syllabus, topic, just share. I can just walk out the classroom, and I don't care whether they learn or not. I just know I want to make sure that they learn and they understand, and that is one. And another thing is, what I have noticed is that students usually they lack this motivation. I have one instance, example khasana. I give them one book. I told them to go back home and just go through that book. The next day I asked the same thing. They said that, oh, I don't have time, I was busy with this, I come to example excuses, or I don't know. They did that kind of excuses. So what I did was, I sent a group message, a group discussion forum. So I just give few questions. So active participant outside the class. So I give a group, let's say a set of 3 students, 4 student group, create topic, discuss practical life, not from the text, not from the syllabus, but outside of it. I can engage with them. But still then, the gap is still very difficult to fill up. Fill up so education system, either the student or either the teachers, there's some gap. The student may not be well equipped. See, we have different students from different background. Education, we cannot say like the Professor Dr. Gangmumei Kamei had a point, very good point. we have to get down to their level. I cannot teach at my own level. So I have to search for what their interests are. Ni kani tung interest at tabu iso tamo I furai ni tung ni. Ko magan ka once they are hooked to that kind of interest, then I can explore the avenues where I can go. So hai tung kota I to focus ni ma tung te. So student kota the bottom line actually. Hai bottom line sa po magan ka ani tung kani tung interest based ka so ita they will always participate. And so that to get them into participations, we have to open avenues for them, and we have to involve them, we have to engage them, and firstly we have to look for the interest. Otherwise, lecture they will just listen and they'll go and they'll forget everything. I think that's how long it took time.
The engagement between student and teacher ni bonding khat ka ge nice so ni ha ano gan students na thao no thai na classroom ko ai oza no ni kalun tin na gai mai me ko mai ni interest pra nai me te ko ni na assignment ko no to reading out of syllabus ni ko na ti na crack jokes no kung sa su na so me ken entertaining ken so ano ken nungai ko ni na ko mai na din ba mai ken mấy đứa này hết thì cái chùm bên sao mấy cái không cần đấy nè con là và thì đang thân cuối con là doctor cái này tổng một tới con là share slow mình càng ta tạo doctor có khát gần tới như mấy này nè tạo gần high school có to regular slow rồi cái này class tắt mình có hay regular slow rồi cái đó institute college life gần tới như sai đấy thôi dropout slow này nè con là slow để hay cái vì mode này của sao mình thế nè con là share slow
dropout mode. One example can be from my department. Dropout rate from my experience, I have been there in the department for 8-9 years now. So, usually most of the students who drop out, or let's say who quit the studies because of financial issues, mostly I have noticed. Financial problem na many. Secondly, what I have noticed is that they have either got job or some employment somewhere, and their interest lies somewhere else again. So not just a student. What I have noticed and I have observed and what I have learned from them is that in these past years is that they come to studies MA or masters as such for time pass, kind of time pass. Only let's say I have 40 students. 40 students only 2-3 of them are serious in the studies. The rest are either actively involved in student union they just want to be involved somewhere, just to waste time and pass time and then to gain this kind of political affiliate or something like that. Any interest na. So I have one student Kamei tinapoy ni Kamei ang kakarete si malom pera time pine Kamei katong interest right full take Kamei interest na ito. She's a warden also. Hostel katong warden sa bom ni. So we give opportunities. What we do is I told my colleagues also, since he cannot attend the class regularly, actually university you might be knowing also we need to have 75% attendance. So but she cannot fulfill that, but she's really good in studies. I can see her interest, I can see her enthusiasm. So what we did was we gave her materials to study at home, and we encourage her. So whenever she can come to the class, we lecture, and then she doesn't, so that she doesn't miss the what you call the gap or the learning with the other students in the classroom and the one who is studying at home. So I think studies and practice ni karakter ni kum itin involved so tonge, and you know what kamay rina studies subamagan ka katong degree da. She got first class. Of course she doesn't get gold medal, but kamay first class ni pakantong te. Kama degree ni pangkan na kama, and with that learning, and she is very practical, down to earth person. And whatever she learned, good thing is that she invite she teach it out to the other students, hostel kids. So language is like this, language many. So the learnings, it doesn't stop with her. It's like a ripples. It goes forward. So experience dropout rate. I financially unstable, so my condition and problem, loss of interest, and say that I don't exactly blame the education system as such, but we need to have a proactive approach to how to what to call dropout rate at lower some mic. We don't try to find solutions. We just tend to blame, and then we have the ready-made solutions. For example, like financial problems, sicknesses, they got jobs, something. So even if they're employed, even if they are like that, for example, if we can have a proper approach to what is their problem, and if you're trying to find solution for their problems, I think dropout rates will dramatically reduce. Reduce so kai bani na jo ning thong the. Hai ko mana na khadar na ta ni tong education na ta example the teachers tong attitude. Ni tong education system hoi ni ja mu kan ko. Teachers tong attitude it plays a great role. Great role ta ha kan nai thong the. You have said nankla tani sa kan the. So a good looking teachers, let's say, motivates the students to attend class regularly. Even we did that. So if there's a beautiful class teachers in a school, you want to attend the class. Usually and I have noticed that also, even in master's level. So that is just jokes aside. Can you have motivation? Something that drives them to come to the department, and something that let's say can you have interest build up so much. Now I don't think they will be absent. So not just the studies part, but in the department they should be engaged with so many other things. So that's where the learning process takes. Learning is not just education, not just books. Can you overall ni? Can you characters holoho? Can you topikum so? Can you well-being? Can you learning process? We just purely focus on book to magan ka. Education system incomplete ni. It's just a one level. So learning is all round development ka sumagan ka. Can you interest build sumagan? Can you motivate sumagan ka? And if we search the interest and then motivate, then definitely they will come and their dropout rate will dramatically reduce. Ito I come repeat it again itong tay.
Dr. Exumi
Tao main point to Dr. Guigongpou can mention sure about any. So it could be financial, it could be lack of interest, it could be because the educator is not well trained, it could be infrastructure or any. But I have a different take on the concept of dropout. If you look at kai world kai big business ni Silicon Valley who can jump me gan boy. Many of the big names comes from the dropouts. You take for example Steve Jobs. He's a dropout. Mark Zuckerberg. Big names. Okay, they all dropped out. But we need to ask this question: why dropped out? Dropout suba mitong university na mita college na mita na school go dropout suba me. Many people see from a negative lens, negative perspective. But there is also one side to it. There are two main sides of the same coin that I'm seeing, when it comes to dropouts. Tao maruoy na tao dropout suba minunggo katong main agenda het buicho ni samsam ni gan ko. Akai tong schooling ko namita college ko namita university ko tao chamba mitong kathiek he. It's very dry. To be very frank, a student it was very dry. Like chum lekin oza na tag me the exam go reproduce so my back again and again. The students started feeling that like, what is the purpose of me in this system? I let it chamba me go high road memory naira produce a maga in a pangang ita buishugang. Or now that I have reached in a master's level or graduation level, am I worth it in the society? I chamba my class 12 pop cham ka mai namita graduation pop cham ka mai hai akai tong life akai tong society akai tong community ko I aju contribute sungam no bo ni. You don't need to be a gold medalist to serve for the society, right? Even your class 12 standard ko cham ka mai nangoi graduation pop cham ka mai nangoi hai, it's more than enough to serve the community for the humanity, right? Hagum naya ka UPSC civil service exam ko kanoi tong minimum education qualification and graduation na dina. You need to be just, even if you are in a final year, you can appear for the UPSC civil service examination. You don't have to be a PhD to become a IAS officer. So tao sabam mikum na drop out hai masay nga sa to I to entrepreneurship ni khat I start sume na misa trena I may he I tal kina anong may life ka I begin to the me sam mikang puke nai thau ko mi tho tau sam kumna dropouts ba me from my own department and psychology department ko to akai mental trauma ko ni traumatic akai episodes ko mai experience sugang mai kham kakai kenung ke khun ko lela mai nungoi phungam manani tan min nungoi kem pai na dia oina na breakdown sunani ai ko min nungoi he ari jaw kang ko to tau po ari sani me the positive side na to the sani dropouts aba me ni haju mina chamba min nungoi student nungoi dropouts su sat na mai out of the let's say 50 students there would be around 5 6 or maybe 10 people 10 students who would drop out but they need to find their passion and interest the bujang I drop out so ne pro sa me tong katong lang at clear goal tani me the identify shu to I think they can be a better person than those who are regularly sitting inside the class right you can make a change in the society hai to kum na tau akai tong kabui rong mai community ko jaw mai gan ko ken ai akai oza Guigongpou te ken tau studio gun ma ko parilaw tong tau Manipur University ko tau akai tong ST jam sit pai na hangin ni linguistics ko tau more than like 40
around
40 in my own department and ngoi tong one department ko ST jam sit the tau he 10 hangin so many of them even though they got into the system they don't want to take admission either there could be any XYZ reasons we are not blaming for them but haikum me akai tung gai me opportunity nai me gan go enter sumama he ni we need to seriously ask this question why these students are not joining in the education line ni sami to taw akai ngoi tung youth ngoi empower sumi sai to taw sabam me education na it is one of the most important tool or path through which you can achieve that empowerment hai kum na kara question than kum these are all linked up these are all dots that we need to connect right we need not see dropouts not only from the negative sense but also from a positive as well as from a very holistic perspective hai kum na dropouts me sa me he gai mi kin nai si mi kin nai tike anu re hau mi tho lan dan boken are lan ta ba me to kom suna rectify sudar kina gai mi chang ga gang da ku to sa mi de ni mai to kom na ka khan re chum pong e sa me ning
na ta za de gang da mi observe sugang mi gan ko ni ta jum na ko observe sugang mi ga institute ko hai government private ni ko hai teaching quality ham da ni to be difference nai bo sa mi de ni
quality of education hai difference paina nai the even if you look at the institutions earlier before I joined Manipur University in 2023 kahunong ko Ambedkar University Delhi ko more than 12 years I taught there in the School of Human Studies psychology program ko haijam ko hudat ken Delhi University ko kagan sa as a guest faculty and as assistant professor anugori nakum jawgang kang ko akai even government institution ko gagai gai paina nai ni for example my earlier institution Ambedkar University Delhi again is one of the most sought university in Delhi apart from Delhi University from JNU or Jamia or any other institutes even if you compare with that of the other private institutions in NCR region we are still one of the best ekom na chamgang migan ko tawai oza nongoi hai even if you look at the private institutions kan ngoi oza oi mism particularly college na Manipur University ko oza oi me some minimum education qualification na UGC rina provide prescribed sume it mana ngam dina no matter where you go you have to be masters in your subject you have to be net qualified and ataw kan the PhD jam can lijaw gang the new but still it's still in the frame hai ko migan ko even if you look at St. Stephen College ni kan ngoi khau da ta ko mai oza ngoi the kin same qualification with that of the private university right but what I personally feel is not the institution but the people who are engaging in the teaching learning process oza rina ta ko milam tak tak bo the quality of education that is imparted whether it is a government or a private kum gana student ngoi ha ni takom me thogai tri na draw so tem so ni what kind of a student are you engaging in the class that really matters not about the institutions but the engagement between the teacher and the learner right learners are megang student and even teachers we are still while I am talking with you I am still learning hai te gumna tau quality of education but one difference between the government and the private is that infrastructure hai tho tau sabam mai private institution ngori tho azam jao kang ko ni tin na to hen mai me luina samigan ko tau private institution ngoi tong main goal tho kan ngoi tho to kan ngoi tong he akai tong government jam institution jam kapiru ko na mita even research pa su ni tho kan ngoi mai jam kapiru ko ba me ka khan ni na. So when they are when they visualize about the institution, they think about the future, the vision, the mission and the goal. Haikum na kanungoi to each and every hour matters. Even some of the institutions are paid based on the number of hours you engage. For example, MIT hu tat kang ko kanungoi to hourly ni nang khongaju tabo khongaju research subo kanungoi timing ko da tatlin ani. Akai nungoi to idana mina monthly ni namita semester wise khau ta kum tatlin ani. Khau ta hoi kena me ko gansa ko nai the ni infrastructure ko thai mange how to rena kai facility ko thai me. For example, even classroom may well equipped or a private institution ngoi ko ni. So the moment when you enter the classroom, it's so inviting, right? You feel as if like, yes, I'm going to learn something. But akai tong government tong institution ko gang me gang to either classroom the seng long mai ko mai ni karim nam si bom ko mai how to rena even akai whiteboard ka mag bom ko ni projector no mai ko mai ni. So we face that kind of challenges. But still, whether you are going to a private institution or a government institution, if you think that you want to learn something, if your vision, mission and the goal is very clear, nang tat mi chang declare oi to samsa kang an hoi subject psychology, it is one of the most sought subject in India and also abroad. Na government tong taw samsa kang ko even langka kunas ni na rims kunas ni na taw ai psychiatric department ni ko akai tong MPhil hai taw Manipur ko kin taw sabong kum na clinical psychologist no pa na gale na hai jam training team mi ha rims ko kin nai na ni MPhil. So in order to become a clinical psychologist, you need to first have your masters in psychology with clinical psychology, and then after that you have to go to MPhil. Mai su na me hai institution na rims ko nai na ni mai hai bai me private institution ko tat mi gan ko nang tangam den na me na tao sabam Bangalore ko tao Nimhans nai na ni tao kai tong MPhil nai kau tu na bai me clinical tong counseling tong pai na subject nai na ta bui chu sam mi gan ko government jam institution ko tao sabam me patient no client no kai sa ba private ko to lao na kum tum to the moment when you engage with as many people as possible, you experience, right? Hai kum experience ko me to government ko na hen na ni as compared to that of the private institutions. But what I wanted to give advice to my viewers is that you have to be very clear with your vision, mission and goal. If it is that clear, you don't have to think about institution. No matter which institution you enter in, you will make it true.
That's correct.
It's an name
Private kanai government tong teachers tong qualification, I will just I'll just add to his point. They are more or less the same qualification. I thought local tong let's look at a local level in Manipur. Let's see. Manipur tong state even in the hills, I have come from the hills, so government tong performance, for example, they are capable, the teachers are capable. And the private also teachers, they are very capable. They are equal in their qualifications, in their learning and everything. But government, they have this pre-concept or prejudice, a notion kind of thing. So even if I don't perform, I'll be getting my own salary. And if I don't come to class regularly also, I don't lecture also, at the end of the month, I'll be getting my salary. But it's not that they're not qualified, they're not good in teaching. They are. But the thing is, how to become I have seen, for example, in the secondary, especially previous years, many years back, education system, even metric, result is very minimal. Pass percentage is very minimal. For example, Don Bosco, my school any Catholic institutions my private school they have so many first class students and they perform well. But if you just compare the teachers, their qualification, even the government teachers, some of them they are much more qualified because they're employed with the interview and so many good processes. I mean they have a regulation sets for them, so they have to pass through, they have to get through that to get employment. So like I said before, they have that kind of what they call that laid back attitude toward teaching, so they don't know that they're employed to teach there. Tina problem na government and private and the student themselves, like Dr.Gangmumei has said, see, it depends on the student about the learning. It's not from the teachers alone. So yes, to some extent the teachers will help them and guide them, but even in this one government school or colleges maybe, if the student is interested and if they have the driving force and the learning interest, then they will definitely excel. And I have one student, he's a JMI. I will not name him, but he came from very poor background, and he's, let's just say, hand to mouth kind of living. Interest na itong ni. So he studied in secondary, Tamanglong's school, the government school. So after that he went to Shillong and then he became a very big officer. But I've seen so many Don Bosco students pass out, or some good institutes, private school pass out. Education system foundation may be good, but if the student or the person lose interest in the long run, then it's more or less useless actually. So it depends on the student. At the same time, little help from the teachers, concerned teachers, motivation factors in individual factor. At the most, what we can do is, whether they're in private school or government college or private college, what we have to do as a teacher is to motivate the students by any means and to help the student find their interest and then pursue and then definitely become successful.
Teacher quality bye may discuss student student MA for something na something career su tao tong na MA for something this kina tan ni tan nai the san tan mai ken padi ken nai na ni to kai ho dung na tao MA loi te sai ki tan na ken ba mi ken padi nai de hai the guidance ga nai na ken dung gai ni mi te oza to perspective ko ni tao success kat so me sai to be steps ni follow su hang again nai to be mo nai pa sam te ni share su.
Okay. After completing their studies, this is what I have noticed and seen. Our students, after completing their educations, they don't have they don't find any job, they don't have any directions. See, that is not the fault of the students alone. And this is one of the reasons, like previous discussions, dropout rates ni. Why am I joining? Why am I joining the institution? What will I do after this completion of these courses or after completion of these studies? Where will I be engaged? Where will I be employed? For example, so if the thing which is offered to them, if it is something that is not interesting for them, employability realm lack of interest drop out field linguistics forensic linguistics biology security crime related NASA, for example, AI translation computer scientist plus definitely a linguist for example phone computer system AI intelligence speech phone iPhone Siri Google Talk linguistics help you have to draft the platform employability concept idea that student they lost interest. So after I finish my master, after I finish my PhD, what will I get? Now there are thousands and millions, hundreds of this lakhs and lakhs of students with PhD, who doesn't have this employment. The other day, last time, I sat in one auto. The auto driver was a PhD holder from Manipur University. He doesn't have employment. So he has to earn his living. So all the degrees that he got, it's got to waste. For example, maybe I'm not blaming him. I'm not blaming the education system alone, and I'm not blaming this in both ways. But what we need to understand is that, see, from the beginning, I've been sharing that skill development is very important. So practical life skill, social skills, everything has to be imparted together along with the not just education, bookish education, life skills, real life events, engagement on my practicality, even small things. I go in at the any something. So entrepreneurship. I have one incident in Shillong. I have one friend, he has this small shop. He started borrowing money and he started. He just opened this computer parts, and now he's one of the biggest in Shillong. So he's just a commerce student, a graduate with a third class. He's not a good student, not a bright student, just below average student, but he has a passion for something and he has focus. Driving force, he has something, some kind of driving force. Driving force, interest, focus, he becomes successful. It won't be easy. It will take time, but still then, if you keep doing that, what your interests are, and if you keep follow up, then definitely successful. Scenario Manipur, employability, are they qualified to be employed? One, other institutions teaching them skills to be, which are qualified to be employed. See, I linguist, I finished my PhD. I go by chance, by luck, by God's grace, I was employed. I'm employed. Before this, also, I work in MIC, Ministry of Home Affairs. So the job distinction between MIC and the teaching, I prefer the teaching part actually. Because that one I have to do lots of traveling. My qualification is such that I have to just analyze language. Analyze documents, compiles, stores job. Teaching, I got exposure to students. I know what is their interest, I know what is there, and I know I have some role to play here, and actually a big role. Their future depends on us also in a way. Guides student they will have a meaningful, fruitful life. But now I'll come back to this curriculum also. Curriculum, I think Uza must have also seen whether they are really practically okay or not. Practical topic syllabus whether it's really usable in practical life. Practical panti so after I finish my masters, or the student finish or you finish your masters, where to go, what to do. So let's say all the employment opportunities, you don't fit in that box. So that means what we have to do is you have to create a kind of learning process where you can be outside the box. Outside the box of the not inside the box. Anyway, kukun system present scenario, especially I'm talking about Manipur. Let's say parents our parents dictated after this class 12 you go for MBBS, you go for NEET, VUG, or this and that, right? So the pressure on the students, we don't allow them to. We don't try to find their interests. Where are their talents? Where are their capabilities or abilities? We don't explore that. Instead, we force our ideas. Ideas can impose. They don't have avenues for expansion of their knowledge or learning or creativity. So the employability rate definitely will be controlled. Education systems. We have been using that word holistic again and again. Inclusive, not just books, but talents plus interest plus skills. hai ko ina career up tum magan khau ne employability will not be an issue. And the another thing is that politics, another thing, and all those is a different story. When you have a talent with skills, definitely they'll employ. See, for example, look at MBA students, look at engineering students, and look at all those people. Before, we have something called campus recruitment, right? So they come. And so many of our students, before he finished our masters, while I was in Kolkata, they came and called him, 3 students. They got employment. They didn't finish their degree yet, but they just came because they know that from this syllabus, from this structure, from the institutions, the syllabus structure, they know. So that means these people will be able to perform based on what is given in their structured education. So aniu tong khawa he katina aniu gen ta ngai so aniu khala se te wa cha ko aniu tong Manipur tong Tamang long tong so la ko any within the districts ni remote so mai gan khau aniu ko we think that only studying, telling them ABCD, maybe. That is education. That is not education alone. Education continues not just in school, but outside of the school. Even your daily chores. Ni nang kai kai bam mai ko mai, phai ka de bam mai ko mai ni. Ko ma nang tan small things activities. That is skills. Those are skills. Hai the skills bangena. So now I have seen so many youngsters. I used to ask my students, "Did you cook?" They said, "No. I don't know how to cook. I don't know even how to cook rice." We are not taught. Parents will force them to study, go and study, go and study, go and study. Those are the things. So that has to be stopped if we want to have. And not just that is just one tip of the iceberg. So there's so much more. Holistic approach to inclusivity. And we have to let avenues open for exploration and build interest in the student, and all this thing has to be nowadays we have this NEP holistic approach. NEP is magan counter undergraduate NEP itself is not totally refined yet. Refined so some magena the university, the colleges, the school, they can refine by themselves. Syllabus, structure, not just book but outside of the book also. They can let the student participate, get them involved in community development and those things. So then definitely all these unemployment things will definitely go down to some extent. So,
Oda ta kana gang ni question kana na ataw student nun goy ni 12 kun loy ni side parents nun time relatives nun time ni kun gang ni kena student rina general line ko ta kai ke PhD loy kena hai ka sume na sa me dream sume sa ka nai ko net ke to be PhD so na waste of time ni ka gan padi lai kana me ku men jo doctor cham dru nurse cham dru ki tolop sat sat ru kena no ai no bango ni sa me concept khat nai na tum chui na ni me khau hai Thaiไม่ได้เรียนตัวสาวบางคนที่เก่งหนูกี่ไทยตันตาลิกสาวบางเก่งหนูเนี่ย PhD รวยเลยกี่นะ student นุ่นกวยต้องตุยจางกันนี่ไม่ต้องจางนายก็ทราบไม่ได้นี่ใคร
โอเคก็ระตรง question ก็จะไอ้ที่นักสะดาวนี่มีขัดกันไหนที่นี่ prior to this question แต่ employment จำissue ให้นายมันจะนำไปนั่นได้นั่นไหนที่นี่ใครตรง Manipur context ก็จะเอาแต่กันใครตรง one community ก็ไปรวม community ก็จะเอาแค่ employment จำ problem ไปนั่นไหนที่น่ะแล้วเด็กตุจำไม่ตุสารกันนะกระทายตัวมันไม่ที่นี่ให้ตรงลงนิ่งคุยตัวบุยขันว่าสันมีกันก็ I think ใครตรง career guidance and counseling ก็กันจานนี่ because whatever that you are seeing unemployment พังมันไม่ต่อให้แต่ก็ตรงsymptom ที่น่ะแต่บุยโทมเต็มตัวซ้ำแต่นี่ now ไม่แต่นี่ fever แต่สำหรับกัน if you have a COVID-19 ตัว fever กังปนี้ test นี่กังมันไม่ละมันไม่ให้ก็ไม่ symptom ที่น่ะน้องเตาตานพังมันนะบางวันไม่น้อยนี่ but if เตากะลาวบังกังตัวน่ะ school กูบังกังตัวน่ะ career guidance and counseling है नहीं so in शुरू होते तो they will never feel dissatisfied phang में सब क्या they will still be satisfied because they will enjoy what they are doing गलाव कांग को अकाई तो बिशुथे समय गन को career है आरी है चंबा मी है science line को है चंबी तो science को मैं तान नाय ना मैं सत्र interest नाय arts लाइट रे ना है avenues नाय नहीं I commerce light रे ना हाई जम scope नाय नहीं सामी को हाई नुंगो है अकाई तों career guidance and counselor particularly koi taw ai school jam counselor no ai ni taw university ko kin counselor bangbai te ni anong tong on department psychology department Manipur University ko kin charon PG diploma in guidance and counseling han but particularly to cater to the needs of the community ni samito larik to cham lakina to bui sung so time so you're blindly engaging with the education system without even knowing what is the future in that education hay kum na kagan cha na school ku bang kang ko tai taw sa ba me counselor no ngoi trina nang mai jam subject ko science ko nang pai na gai te tho science ko ni physics chemistry biology ni biology ni botany zoology na ni ka tong na jam interest mai te identify shurai ra kina mai te gai chu in shuro wi te tho mai te ka thai shoi me tu kan dina kamari na MA loi te ken PhD loi te ken ni mai te shoi me na ka thai tu kan dina kamari na PhD loi ko tan phang me sa pu te ken kamai ne cham ka mai to he or she will definitely be satisfied that satisfaction is very important not the money akai tong society ko particularly akai tong community ko jawang gang ko akai tong vision na pai na short oi na economics jam ni anga ko jaw kang financially jaw kang ko short term ai he akai tina financially tina stable oi ma ko mi to ai tan khat them ni dai ni tan khat mai na tu kom ta lena without even looking at what the education can help him or her after some few years komna taw grade class 12 loi rakina kamai cham kai ni mi pot to finance sam kai jam financial crisis sam nai ko trina kom ti na kom tan ko trina khau to kom ta ka ko ta kapan ti ken pai na bright oi ngam ma khe ni ka kai family ken kamai help sungam ma khe but kamai dina tingkum ngachak na whole sor kina ni tingum ka thop na kanai na whole sor kina graduation loi bang kon ni te to ka chang da na dai na nai ba the scope is much more when you go higher in the ladder ai kan nai then ni kana guidance and counseling tung pai na dai me role nai sam mi khat ai mai to highlight chro do mini now coming back to after research sutal kina na me da PhD loi kina tabui shu ko to sam me jam question ni pai na nai taw kai nongoi tung community ko na me taw larger context ko jaw kang ko ni even some of the elite institution nongoi ko jaw kang ko PhD lor kina tan ma pai na nai na unemployed after PhD but kara tung ai sa ka mai point how rap krina nang ai mai ka su me na ning ka mai na te tho he or she will definitely find a way out for example school samam kang ko ta counselor na mesa trina kapui kapu na meta teacher na mesa trina educator trina nang mai PhD kha mai he subject ko suo sai ti tho nang oja oinu ni na meta nang scientist ko oinu hai jam po like clearly oi po ne tho kamai school cham kang ko trina I schooling class 10 12 doi kang ko I PhD jam jang ne tat me sai ti tho I undergraduate ko I mai jam subject la mi tai PhD saba mi he nang class 12 loi mana nang direct PhD ta no mena graduation nan lower ke nang PhD ta no mena you have to first complete your masters or post graduation tum la kazam path ta clearly gang di tum tho kamai PhD loi kang ko kamai kra galau kang ko cham no ko mai ta katong mentor na katong educator na meta counselor na meta parents no the guides intro ko mai ta nang oja oi meta no mini saba mi ta hai ta ka thai ta khau ta gang wani saba kamai galau na re nurture so ko mai ta kom dong to ka jam chang na than thik ti gang dong to kamai PhD loi kang the masters loi kang the net clear so mi ta ta ni kom na PhD loi kang to it will be much easier for him or her to engage in the field of teaching ni pai na dai mi scope na ina akai tung Manipur jam context ko to particularly as a subject ko sai the psychology ko ta Manipur University ko department it's a very young department started in 2019 we are just completing 5-6 years kumna taw akai tung undergraduate level ko college re kanai na nai ko akatho padda ka the Raven College ni chura champur jam irang thau ko na ko affiliate sum ke MU ko taw nai ba mi khana taw Naurem Birahari College ni haina de taw psychology cater su undergraduate level ko taw siron 2025 krina UNACO college ko psychology department han bute and they are getting the maximum number of students on in their first inaugural intake. So haite kumna anuwajam subject ko I can say much deeper in my subject. Kumna psychology lagang mai satra nungwa taw masters ko mai suwami nai to if they cleared net exam their future is really bright. PhD loy the kon ni to it will be much brighter because taw college nungwa taw khat kana ina nai ba mi ha taw thai gang tina psychologism importance ni society ko impact aju kam tingam bosa me ni kumna many of the colleges are going to come up. Haijam han pa kang to wisu punte oja kaw punina oja kaw kang ko oja pungu lani ko you are lani ko to wilani ko SD ka to so men napan ni ko haijam ko mitong vision ne clearly galaw kang to na guidance teaching ti gang ni to PhD loy puken to loy puken katong kabam ka to definitely you will be there kamay PhD loy kina oja oi mitiken kamay katong interest na itong to either kamay one startup phung thau to ni entrepreneurship phung thau to ni hai ko mitong scope pa na na kamay educator working no de ni even in the field of science ko to even scientists no pa na India ko ni so scope to god me sa me aju saron ni if you have the interest in your subject.
PhD complete so me guide hai ani wa ta zar ni sawam te gahak me tong point shares lo kan right from the time you're let's say aware about what your interests are ni nang tong interest nang thai parok tu magan khaturena pursue so with it definitely you'll be fruitful. So class 10 salakho 12 salakho the graduation sakante post graduation then PhD. In my case atong example my parents forced me atong apuy purun ato doctor tani day to mai ni engineer taro ko mai that kind of advice they give, but I kept my focus and this one building interest na ta Abdul Kalam reni salo kami tong lakhana hai tung katong motivation factor karo I have pursue so tong so when I was doing my graduation see I did haphazard actually because my parents wants me to do MBBS kani MBBS samne de namphu ka to songte kamai kani usoma kan khaw nani so ping allow them to khang ping mi tong nai na so I listened to them during class 11 12 time so I pursued science. Then I knew that is not my interest and I am not interested in science. Then I shifted to English literature in graduation. So from literature then after I got an MA also, but I gave my seat to one of my friend who didn't get. So I gave the literature seat to him and I took up linguistics. I don't know what is linguistics. Okay. My interest was or my aim or objectives blindly I want to become a professor. To mitong idea khatu na ina ba mena academician khatsune to mitong longning I to pursue so tong I come to I'm not good, I'm average student, sometimes below average. So my performance and academic performance ya pong how guy I come to become something mitong interest builds time I definitely dedicated pursue so my so and financial issues ni nagaite I study so magan ka health issues nagaite come I keep going come magan ka JRF ni clears law nang the so in the first attempt also then come na clears so padala nang the PhD somehow I hook a crook complete the PhD in some magan interesting thing is usually PhD takes 4 or 5 years come magan atong guide sabbatical leave law kanina kamaya so for 2 years think kom kanai khang ni sabbatical leave law kan thena kamai kom ti me to she guide me 1.5 years think kom khat ma khai ni de ta guide law mai kamai kom me ga no me thi khang karama PhD kamai sabbatical leave loi gong dana team phang lo the kamai submit so tho so the submit so lo the kom degree de kom kani phang tong the so the expert during my viva they said that your work is very good nakamai sai nang ton go hage ko make it incomplete ton go incomplete so what you have to do is after this PhD he advised me to go for postdoctorate also postdoctor kani so santa I apply ni so de phangni phangai ki I pursue so make because that time like I said I was interested in teaching field academics so I delve into research field so research associates na ni atala we kama tabi bitong project ni I say lawaye I've been to this border China border Jammu Kashmir ni ta Kanyakumari Gonmei kabang bang tu na Gujarat kani don tanang gilona we did documenting language atong ko ba interest na itong so with all those small experience ka titina na ai hotra ta wai kuma da uzo atong feel ka tun kha samma go da tong the kuma ani utong tama I looking at my own experience I'm not a good person in the sense that I'm not very bad in education studies but I work hard that is what I want to share to the viewers you have to work hard ni ani to ran ni na de karam ran ni nang tong interest na ka ni da focus na ka ni da to definitely will achieve ni so employability rate after the PhD Gonmei depends ni now say let's say out of one post vacancy magan ka let's say we have 5-10 so we have something called merit system again and depending on the merit then you will be employed again now if this not an interview honi na that any system matang nai tong the ko magan kha ni PhD room chi nai magan kha sit to khana ni so who will get the one who is the most highest point ni kani nai magan kha not only on marks depends on the interview also so kom tung khan ni nai pa ni kom kha ani kha well learned so mai pang sani ta sa kame da kom opportunity platform ma tung ani khang ani come to a PhD lawyer plan and join so maybe ma so but that's why the skills come in so life skills good megan cow you can create your own space you can create your own institute you can create your own like startup for example I come nang you will be employed and in the process you can look for your you can still pursue your interest ni I think man I don't sabong khang na kai the ke tum lai lawan
ta za ta kan question kan na kang no me ni ta Manipur University nu dai hak mai na kai kang sna thani ko na za dong department ka hai kai travel student ni ST nin ko kang to be opportunity nai wa sa mi te ni kina fi wa
yes how rob krena mai tong ST jam labam hai ni paina dai ke the hum the day when I joined I can ST jam position ni as a teacher atong position he ST jam post and this time I have applied for associate professor in the unreserved post ST jam ni my unreserved open category associate professor jam I have given I think the result is going to come out very soon I don't know what might happen but looking forward to tao akai tong psychology jam scope pe paina dai akai ST khang keni khap ken entry ko ken tao sa kumna but I by my community the paina hene lawe samilabam nam ange tekina tao Manipur ko tao tai mere bi min ngoi tong di 2023 May 3 ko patan khreina tao ST jam sit ngoi kai to hangam dina tao azam department ngona na me oza ko department entire Manipur University jam structure ko ni ST jam post right during 14th of August ko ta kai tong advertisement ka pale if you see it you will be really alarmed the number of vacant seats for the scheduled tribe hundreds even in my own department there are more than 10 seats still vacant tau again tegina that's a you know a story apart tau masters ko anway tau department ko specialization kanai na clinical psychology re khalina child psychology re or developmental psychology so if you are entering into psychology you have two specializations in Manipur University in psychology department clinical psychology and other one is the developmental or the child psychology so clinical psychology ko specialized suminungorena the buita the bo samigan ko masters lower kinak they cannot immediately become a clinical psychologist immediately after their masters rather they have to undergo another training that is the MPhil that is mandatory kumna thaidau to taw sabam kumna MA है clinical psychology को specialized sure कि ना तिंकुम कन्नाई है MPhil को clinical psychology है लोइड तान मिगन को RCI ननी Rehabilitation Council of India ननी कतों certification है apply शुद्ध पनीना हम तो if I am a student of clinical psychology who have just completed my MPhil I have to apply for the RCI certification for becoming a clinical psychologist kan gorina atong sabam mai academic tong katong hajuk mina he jawngam mi gan ko nu the sa ti they will certify me as a clinical psychologist ataw to taw NEP gang grina ni structure change ho the MPhil program me lapat kate but still taw RIMS ko taw ke MPhil program clinical psychology ko taw sunu de ni tekina taw naw mi tong NEP jam gang me gan ko taw masters in clinical psychology recognized by RCI na gang MA direct lower kina you can become a clinical psychologist right haidakha akhadarina taw child psychology la menongorina kanongorina to we should bo sam mekan ko masters loida tang lakina kanongoi hai either clinic ko oi no hospital ko oi no ni na metrina any komitong akai clinical psychologist clinical na me child psychologist kabang ko kanongoi hai hospital na metrina clinic ko the practice sungal lakina ni they can become a child psychologist right kanoi tong hai RCI tong recognition tong komitong khapama directly they even if the candidate wants to go for a PhD they can directly go to the PhD tekina ajam specialization to organizational behavior ni particularly coming under the industrial and organizational psychology takum suna sabame akai tong human behavior particularly in organization ko individual group kan structure ina akai tong behavior ani takum suni impact subo sameni haizam specialization te particularly anongoi OB ko loi minongoi he company na misatrina government tong institution de dai minongoi ko kanoi HR human resource ni HR department ko recruitment selection training promotion kanoi psychological test me anoi regai to su ni kamna haitana namana there are many other areas in psychology such as counseling ni counseling psychologist no gen bangbai the haidaru ta taw kan jan taw thawbam mai chabon no re paina ngui mai psychology ko sai to taw forensic kani criminal psychology he paina interest oi na ni paina gangai maybe they were pretty much influenced by Netflix and Amazon Prime and other but still it's becoming pretty big area in psychology kamna taw psychology ko taw sabam mitong scope pe na dai ke thena ni akai tong Manipur context ko kan ni akai tong ST no ko akai tong community no re psychology chamme sai de tho this is the right time to strike otherwise it will be too late for our community ham to by my community no again taw we hongam thena ka tong scope ni hami to mai jam subject ke cham kang wa akai tong community ka adi computer sunu sa me ni pe na nai thena so this is the brief description about the scope when you complete your psychology
linguistics department khao tawai new ST student tong khang sit pai na nai tawai ni tong tobi ko masa ko to ni tong conflict nai me tang ri ni gap pai na nai the usually we used to have intake used to be 50 seats ni sit ring or atong the so at present we have around 13 vacancy for ST koma previous years kani kom gong tong the maybe 2-3 years ni kom make before that hai ho ga tha ST seat rush hoina so we used to have around waiting list not only one waiting list 2-3 waiting list so ma seat fills na koma rush hoina so tong the kom make ta wai I conflict problem nai me tang ran ta wai ST seat khanga ni on not the naka committee to lo kho haina kaidam magan khao seat kind of anti suina last year also we have done 3 rounds MUAT ni
what
MUAT mat ai so pani the hai ka wai let's see to we one as a one pani so kom ani thong student non ka ST non opportunities ai kind of opens na nai de so I want our people or ST communities to take this privilege ni the opportunity ta lo la na kani no ma tom fill up so ite to kani khong platform ko ai mai kani khong chance ko ai mai de na ta salon ni ya ko ma kani thong hai chance la thai tho sa ni
kana mi goi na asai za chong so me za kanai groi na gang mai su ni mai pati ka ba gai na ni kom na broadly su na kom na elaborate ni slow kan the kom na kham mai su na ni kai za na za khroi na ni atau hai educating the youth sa mi tong ni tam kra mi tong topic tong ni conclusive remark sa kam na lo
conclusive remark hangai ko masa ka ta ta aram me tong ni tong education system mai it should be inclusive ni it has to be holistic and it has to be skill based and the interest and the what you call the kaniu tong student non tong interest ni kaniu tong abilities kaniu tong talents, you have to look for that. Then can you not just education from books, but education like life. It's a lifelong process. Ni kom jang harana tong concluding remarks kato education will be inclusive of books, talents, interests, and everything. So that is what I want to conclude.
Azam wakal kuto education sabab mi hai. It is not just about gaining the bookish knowledge, rather it is about molding what you wanted to become in life, and also to live a life with full of joy, happiness, and satisfaction. Let it tie regina tan ki phang lakina satisfied oi mi so education tung purpose ken ma esa mi ni ai kum saloni e kum ga taw thawa mi na no jabon no go ken let it cham me sabam mi hai tabui jang gang cham tim cho you need to ask this existential question, why am I studying? Kum kina ai mai study subam mi hai thakwai to tat khang cho thing bang khat asai hai how bang linge sai te tho ka thai hai thingum kanai ka thum ko how suna thai pani ai say how ling lakina ai komla tu me sa mi te tho no plangin ani. So you need to clearly know where you are going, where is your goal, where is your vision, and you need to clearly work on your mission as well. Ai kum na tan mi gan ko ken pui pu ta ning tau ka katong oza nongoi ta ning tau ka katong mentors nongoi ta ning tau rakina ni, and also obviously kai tong ragong tong sohem ken dai na nai mai ko ni lum khang kai ni ka ge nai kum na kai mai nongoi he thai chu ina thai na tau sabam mi tong kra are mention su mai ken ladik cham ko ai western education tong pot le hoi cham ni na de tau AI tong ni revolution can involve in it, but you should never forget your culture, your people, your identity. Hai tu kum na tau sa kum na holistic development mai ta gang tu ko na masai na ka sum na fulfilling life e gang ni tong ina. So that is the purpose of education, right? So in conclusion, you are the torch bearers. You have to lead the way and make a big contribution to the community.
But the dining thon go any of that and I take on the I say don't question it we do time in the tan the need like my end and that comes not but no I say to go my interaction program andนี่คุณน่ะไม่ก็ในครั้งนี้ปฏิหนุ่มไงบางคนเนี่ยไหนแกลุงไก่จำนี่ไม่นี่สุดที่คุณไหนแกไหนก็ตั้งคนนี้ไก่ra cái này hệ xem mình là thôi tàn tin hắc thằng này đấy rồi còn mình gần cái này cũng là gần cái tin là ra đấy bây giờ sao mình gần cái này ra nó cũng gần rồi mình khăng tên này ra cái này thì cái phân đại nó thân cư thằng thế rồi trong steam nạp rồi này cũng là cái viewers đến quay nạp rồi này cái xây trong topic hay bu mà cái sau đó thì cái bài mấy topic hay này cũng là comment section của quay cũng là drop down slow discussion này cũng là sự gần đó về sao mình đi sự đáp này sao mình cái lùm cài mình cái nàyปฏิได้นะทนกูเตะใส่กับสนาโต้ก็ไม่เกี่ยวกับจากกันได้แต่แกตาว still จากกันได้แก learn ส่วนเด็ดเลยแกก็ขันทำตัว goal ให้มาทำตัวจำไม่ achieve สู้ไม่ goal ให้รวยไม่นายไม่แค่ทับปันนี้ก็แต่ก็ตั้งแค่นายก็น่ะเจ้าเป่าไม่ร้านก็ไอ้เราซ้ำไม่แค่นี้จากกันได้แกก็น่ะก็ดีตรงที่ปฏิได้นะทนกูเตะ viewers นั้นก็ไอ้ตาทำกูเตะ